did is pretty impressive, Cobes. So then we had the idea, because that one came out so good, that we would do one while we're here to raise money. So that QR code to go ahead and auction. This is definitely a Starburst. That is
right. So
it looks like Starburst.
I mean? Yes.
That is. Can you hold it up and show them what you've done so far?
I just finished it. So it is.
Here. How about we do this?
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah.
I'll hold it here. Oops. Here, hold it up right there. It's still wet.
Yeah, just a little bit.
It looks like Starburst. Okay, go ahead and put it down. Do we want to pull the tape off? You wanted me to do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here, give me tape. Give me the thing.
All right, here you go.
So we'll pull the tape off, and while we pull the tape off, so tell me, okay, so you were talking about this earlier. Tell me what it feels like to paint things, because I mean, this is only your second painting, but you were saying earlier, I just love to hear your explanation.
I'm not enjoying it, nor am I not enjoying it. But the thing is that I'm not thinking about that at all. Because I'm in such a Zen mode that I can't really think about like, oh, is this fun? Is this enjoyable to me? Because I'm so focused on getting all of the colors in. So I'm thinking about that, but also I'm talking too. So it's but it's also the same thing with acting. I'm so focused on acting that I'm not that everything else around me is kind of like put aside. So with painting, I do it and I think about it, and then once I finish it, I'm like, oh wow, I just did all that. So it's very nice.
So the cool thing about this is whatever money that Kobe raises, whatever money Kobe raises in this auction, and the auction it will go until this Friday at 10 a.m. So any money goes back to ACT Today, Autism Care Today, and it's going to help raise money for iPads for people on the spectrum. And I think it's really cool that, you know, and people do so many things. Like Kobe, you were saying how it's not fun for you. It's not that it's not.
Yeah,
it's that it puts you in a Zen place.
Exactly.
And I kind of love that you could have a place. That is Zen for you, and that you could feel like, okay, now you had said you would like to do more of these, right?
Oh, yeah, I'd love to.
So, and is this going to be your thing, the tape thing, or do you want to try other mediums? Or
I mean, for now, yeah. Because it's easy enough to do. I'm not thinking about like what to do or like what shape should be there. It's trying to find out like what shapes fit, what color goes, and just.
Okay, can you want to hold that and show them what it looks like? It's still very wet.
So
it is so Starburst.
So you got cherry, you got strawberry, you got orange, and you got lemon.
Oh my gosh, that is legit. Like whoever wins this, we're gonna send a package of Starburst,
Seriously,
which are gluten and dairy free. There are going to be Starburst in there, 100%, because that is the Starburst. We're gonna show it to the camera here.
I got some paint right here.
Oh well, paint on your hands. I know that's.
I love it. It's paint.
It's paint. Look at that, everyone. So
Embrace the paint on your hand.
Here is. Well, does it go? Which way does it go? This way? It's yellow to red, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Am I backwards?
No, you're right. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So there is Kobe's painting. So the auction, the QR code for that painting is going to be on his social media, which is @TheKobeBird. That's for Instagram. In his stories is a QR code. We will post a picture of this when it's dry. Kobe's going to sign it, and we'll post a picture when it's dry. This is now called the Starburst, and whoever wins this, we are sending you a pack of Starburst with yellow, orange, pink, and red Starburst. This is. I wish it smelled like. Ooh, it smells like paint.
I can taste it.
You could. Now I feel like we need to go get Starburst on the way home.
I could tell which was which because as I was doing it, I could taste each color. So,
oh, you could?
Yeah. That's also a thing with autism. It's called synesthesia. What was it called?
I forget the word.
Something sin.
Synesthesia.
Synesthesia, thank you.
Something sin. Well, we are actually out of time, and we are so thankful for every one of you being here with us. We're thankful for our autism community. We're thankful for our family. And we're thankful especially to Shannon for putting this together, this 44-hour podcastathon, and asking us to come be here at midnight. It doesn't even feel like it's 1 o'clock in the morning at this point.
Yeah, you forget.
And this hour went by really fast. And thank you. I am thankful for you. And I'm thankful for my whole family.
I'm thankful for everything in this room.
Have a great rest of your night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Good night.
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Well, if we've seen 2 streets we probably love.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our inspirational hour.
surprised it's not talking to us. I think we're in the show. Yeah, he says take it away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our inspirational hour, live from Cape Town, South Africa. I'm Ilana Gershlovitz, director of an ABA company in South Africa, author of Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism, and podcast host for Autism Now What? I'm also the mother of 3 boys. 2 of my boys were diagnosed with autism. My oldest son, David, is 20 years old, and he's an adult with autism. My middle son, Ellie, who is a university student in first-year medicine at the University of Cape Town, is going to share his experience and thoughts on autism. My youngest son, Aaron, who was also diagnosed with autism at a young age, lost his diagnosis of autism, and we will be sharing his recovery story. I am delighted to let you know that I am also joined by my husband, Martin, over here, who will reflect on our journey with autism from a dad's perspective. By the way, we did not know what we were going to wear today, and we just happened to dress in black for the occasion. So we're very excited to be sharing our journey and inspiration from South Africa. We're going to start by hearing from our middle son, Ellie, first.
Before we start, I just want to set the scene for you guys. And
Yes.
I don't know who of you have been to Cape Town. It's a really beautiful city. We can actually, the windows open, we can hear the sea beyond us, and we can hear the seagulls chirping. But in about 5 minutes, you will hear, well, hopefully you won't hear it, but a generator will start, because South Africa are having rolling blackouts. We've had for the last 6 months, maybe even a year, almost everyday blackouts, where the country's grown at such a rate that they haven't kept up with the maintenance of the power plants and built enough power plants so that actually we have enough power for the people in South Africa. And most people have backup power, and we've tried to arrange things. Our laptop is plugged into a battery backup. Generator is about to kick in, and I'll close the window, and there will be no more seagulls, and you won't hear the sea anymore. Well, we certainly won't. But just setting the stage for you guys, as beautiful as Cape Town is, we have our fair share of problems. But happy to be here. And Ilana did say it was okay. So I actually can't believe we're both wearing black.
Yeah, I don't know how this happened. I was like, what am I going to wear? And just out this way. Okay, let's move over to Ellie, and please write us messages. We want to hear from the audience. We want to know what's on your mind. We want to know what you're thinking. Join us live on Facebook, on Twitter. Casey, can we go to the first video, Ellie's video, sharing his experience?
We actually wanted to cross live to him from UCT, the University of Cape Town, but we weren't sure that we were going to have enough signal. So we thought we would actually pre-record
Hello,
it.
everyone.
Even now,
Thank you, Shannon, for giving me the opportunity to share my experience and thoughts on autism. I'm Ellie Gershlovitz, and my older brother David has autism. I decided to study medicine as I want to specialize in the autism field. Autism is a relatively new disorder, and not many doctors are involved in research and treatment. Growing up with my brothers, I feel that I have a unique and deep understanding of autism, which will help me create a significant impact in the field and really improve the lives of many other families. Growing up with David as my older brother, I always used to say that when we go out with him to the shops, it would be like walking next to a ticking time bomb. I can remember when going to the shopping center, we would shop as usual and David's anxiety would build. Every time that we would go shopping, it would feel like walking next to a ticking time bomb. And when the time ran out, it would set off the bomb and this was never a pretty sight. To see David shriek and scream and hit himself, all I wanted to do was to hide behind my mom and hope that nobody that knew me could see me. Now that I'm older, and I realize that as much as I used to hide behind my mom had nobody to hide behind, and she had to deal with the stares and burning glares and utter disbelief that we've had from other people looking at David have a meltdown or tantrum in the shops. It has really always angered me how people didn't have the decency to look away and save us from the embarrassment. But unfortunately, society can be insensitive and cruel. Honestly, being David's brother is harder than people would ever imagine. I'm constantly surprised and disappointed by the lack of understanding and the skewed perception of what autism really is. The media portrays individuals with autism to have exceptional skills and capabilities. Shows like The Good Doctor create an incorrect perception that most autistic individuals have exceptional capabilities, when in fact this is definitely not the case. TV shows tend to couple savant syndrome with autism, which misrepresents the true depiction of autism. These misconceptions of autism is preventing medical research that is very much needed to come up with treatments in order to alleviate the symptoms of autism. In my opinion, the root cause of the problem lies with the very definition of autism in the DSM-5. The time has come for autism to be redefined. The DSM-5 has lumped severe autism and Asperger's together. This has resulted in healthcare professionals not being able to get a proper understanding of a population that varies so greatly in its presentation. Without a clear distinction of various parts of the spectrum, we are comparing apples and oranges. It has become more urgent than ever to call for a split of the spectrum. Children with autism don't choose to be non-speaking. There are physical, medical underlying causes preventing them from expressing themselves. I read many books about autism to educate myself on treatment and to gain further understandings about the intricacies of this disease. My favorite book is by Dr. Brian Japson, who is the author of Changing the Course of Autism. He explains the medical complexities of autism when he says that autism is merely one symptom of an underlying disease process that affects the immunological system, the gastrointestinal system, the toxicological system, as well as the neurological system. This definition of autism is applicable no matter where on the spectrum an individual has been classified. Based on current research, we can now see that autism is not a psychiatric condition requiring psychiatric medication. Autism is a very debilitating illness. 40% of children with autism are nonverbal. Why would any parent sit back and accept this? Autism is an epigenetic disorder that is developed due to the expression of vulnerable genetics triggered by environmental factors such as toxins, food, infection, and so on. If David could communicate beyond basic needs and those things he loves the most, I believe that he'd tell us that for him, autism is not a superpower. I feel his anxiety and frustration when he can't make himself understood. I see how he picks his skin until he bleeds as a result of his uncertainty about what's happening next. I sense the fear and confusion in his eyes when he's about to have a seizure and can't tell us. I'm aware of and appreciate the things that I could do easily and David is unable to do. He's taught me to be responsible and not take anything for granted. I still hold on to the hope that David will continue to recover from autism. I always used to listen in on to my parents who are consulting top professionals in the autism field to find a way to repair the damage that autism has done. They never stop looking for new treatments to solve his autism, even though David is 20 years old. This definitely prompted me to study medicine. When I was younger, David's seizures were always a shock. It felt like when you walk into a room and someone is hiding behind the door shouts, "Boo." I remember an incident at my grandma's house where I actually thought that he'd died from the seizure. This encouraged me to take a first aid course, and also this sparked my interest in medicine. Being in a situation where I felt helpless encouraged me to equip myself with the necessary skills to manage David's seizures, and this eventually led me on to joining an ambulance cadet program. When I was in high school, friends and other students would joke about autism or pass comments on autism that really upset me. They never understood severe autism, which upset me deeply, and it felt as if the challenges that my family and I had experienced were invalidated. To all the siblings out there, just know that you're not alone and that there are many other siblings just like you. Don't ever give up hope, because there are many ways to help autistic children lead better lives. Try to help your parents in any small way you can. They are having a hard time dealing with autism. My way of dealing with autism was to do well at school. I didn't want my parents to endure any more suffering. The behavior of your sibling is not always in their control. Remember this in moments when you are faced with their challenges. My message to all siblings is to get involved, read books on autism, learn about the treatments, and advocate for there to be more medical research to understand and treat autism. Thank you everyone for your time.
I'm filming you.
Casey, can we talk? Are we able to go?
We're back on.
Okay, we're back on. So I want to say, after listening to Ellie there, I actually haven't heard that clip until now. And I'm thinking to myself, we're so privileged to have a child like Ellie. He is mature beyond his years. You know, he's only 18 years old, but I would say he's got the maturity of a 40 or 50-year-old. The amount of life experience that he's had and been through has really molded him. And, you know, in a way, I think it's a little bit unfair, because we have put this huge responsibility on Ellie, because, you know, he's younger than David, but yet it's almost like he's his older brother and he's responsible and takes care of him. And he knows that one day when Ilana and I are not here, he's going to have to take care of David. And I think that, you know, we're going to tell you a lot about our circumstances and our journey, but I think we're very, very privileged just listening to him, to have such a mature, caring, you know, and he's never lost his cool with David ever. I can't think of I mean, maybe in all these years, I seriously can't think of a situation where he's actually lost his cool with David. He's so patient, he's so kind, he's so caring, and he's very protective. And, you know, I think because he's been born into it and grown up with this situation, he doesn't look and say, okay, I've missed out on so much. Look what my friends are doing. He's never ever once said, oh, I could have done this, or I could have done that, and why did this happen to me? Maybe us as parents have thought that, but certainly not Ellie. He's just been okay with it. It's unbelievable. So I think we're very lucky to, what do you think? We're very lucky to have somebody like him. And yeah, we'll tell you a bit more about him.
You've made me tear up and choke up, because I feel the same. We have been very fortunate to have Eli. He's really just been such a pleasure, and he's never wanted to give us any kind of hard time, because he knows that we've already had such a hard time with David. But now, Mark, remember when David, our oldest son, who's now 20, he was diagnosed 18 years ago with autism. And Mark, I remember you used to say, remember what you used to say?
I thought it was like a nightmare that hopefully I would wake up from. But when I woke up every morning, autism was very much present in our life. And it was a nightmare that I couldn't escape from. Looking back, when we were in crisis, we initially received David's diagnosis. And if I fast forward 18 years, I don't think we actually could have done more.
No, we couldn't have. We did a lot.
I mean, we did absolutely everything we could. I don't think we rested. Part of that was healing, but part of it was just we were surviving, and it's consumed us. In the beginning, when we were looking for help, we consulted with speech therapists and OTs. We were also in touch with parents overseas, and I think this was a key to our whole journey where we started. We met a lady by the name of Judy Chinnitz. Some of you may know her. Her child Alex is actually a little bit older than David, and so she was in this fight already before we got onto it. And Judy was so smart. She was highly intelligent. She told us all the right things in the beginning, where we should seek help, and she actually convinced me to fly to America and attend a DAN conference. I think that was Autism 1. Before Autism 1, there was something called DAN, Defeat Autism Now, and this is where everybody, all the people who were interested in autism, doctors and parents, all kinds of clinicians came. And I remember going to my first DAN conference and being absolutely blown away. I'm not sure if people from around the world, how many people from around the world are listening to this, but even if you're in America and you, let's say on the East Coast, and it means flying to the West Coast, I highly recommend going to one of these conferences, because, you know, when you arrive at the conference, there are thousands of parents in the same position as you. You know, when you're alone at home and you're dealing with your autism, you think that you're alone, and there are not so many people that this is happening to, that, you know, this is like 1 in a million, and now you've got this big problem that you have to deal with on your own. But when I was there and I looked to my left and right, saw so many other people in the exact same position as me, and we were just chatting, I was just chatting to other parents, I realized that I wasn't alone, and that was very comforting. I felt supported, and I started to establish networks, and I met doctors. I was totally inspired. I remember calling Ilana excitedly, look, I met this person, I met that person, and I told her about all the things that we could possibly be doing. When I returned to South Africa, we were extremely energized. I started reading books, started getting literature, started like just getting better equipped to deal with this journey. And I came across a book by, I don't know if it was you or me, maybe you gave it to me, but
I think I did.
by Dr. Jacqueline McCandless. She's no longer with us, but at the time,
she was amazing. She was incredible. I mean, she had a granddaughter with autism. She was a psychiatrist, and she was looking for answers.
And she wasn't scared. She was fearless. I remember her nature.
We were a little bit scared of her.
Yeah, I was definitely scared of her. Her nature was very, I don't know how you put it, but
she was scary.
She was scary.
And she told us to put him on a diet, remember? And she wasn't.
No,
she was serious.
She wasn't kidding.
She
around.
wasn't joking.
But before I tell you a bit about her, I read her book, and I couldn't believe when I was reading this book. I would say about 90% of the things that it was called Children with Starving Brains.
Yeah.
90% of the stuff in her book were describing David to a T. I could not believe it. I read it over and over, and it was just too much of a coincidence. You know, this can't be. What she was describing was my child. We had to get hold of her. Ilana and I are very tenacious people. When we decide we're getting hold of something or we're doing something, we do it.
I don't take no for an answer.
And then we decided, okay, we've got to speak to this lady. She's going to help us. And I remember trying to contact her in the beginning, but it didn't get much of a response. I can't remember if she responded or didn't. But to get her to be able to be a patient and to consult with her.
What we actually did was we packed a box of curios from South Africa. We put the big 5. If you ever want to come to South Africa, we've got elephants, we've got lions, you can come on safari. But remember, we put all the little curios in a box with a big picture of David, and we wrote a card begging her to help us with David.
And we're thankful that she actually did. She responded. She said that she would help us. And we had our first consultation, and it was wonderful. I think that first consultation, we were mainly just giving her all the facts, just describing our child. And then we had to do all the lab tests. And so, you know, what we did is part of it was medical. David was a really sick child, so we had to medically get him better. And part of it was also the therapy that we had to do from a behavior point of view and educational point of view. But the lab tests that she ordered were onerous. You know, we were living in South Africa, felt like a million miles away, and we had to get blood, stool, and urine to the United States. Some had to be refrigerated, some had to be at room temperature, some had to be frozen, and you know, it was how were we meant to do this? And for me, the most daunting part is pricking David and getting blood from him. I didn't want to traumatize him. I was so worried about making him feel bad, but we knew we had to do it. You know, since then we've done so many blood tests, and now it's nothing. David just puts out his arm, and it's nothing for him to take a blood test. But at the time, I think we were just as traumatized as David. And David screamed, he cried, and I remember racing this blood to the laboratory. We had pre-arranged everything to spin it in a centrifuge. I think it was to separate the blood from the red blood cells from the plasma, and then taking the blood, the stool and the urine to FedEx. And we had pre-arranged with FedEx, and we'd got all the permits, we had signed everything. Literally chartering a plane. It was one of FedEx's planes. We had pre-booked it, and everything had to get to the USA. Somewhere on the West Coast, somewhere on the East Coast, had to get there by a certain amount of time so that the samples wouldn't be spoiled. And anyway, so we were thankful that everything arrived on time, and I remember receiving. Sorry, after said the flu. Do you want to just carry on with the story?
Okay, yeah. So we got all the labs off to America, and Dr. McCandless sent us a report, and she said, "Good luck. This is what's wrong with your son. David had viral infections, he had bacterial infections, fungal infections, inflammation, immune issues." And at the end of her report, she said, you know, good luck with the healing of your child. And this was so inspirational. And really, this is just how we got started on the biomedical side. And it was so very special for us to share that story with, you know, the listeners today, because all the labs for biomedical testing are in America, the doctors are in South Africa. So we just had to make a plan being in another country. And by the way, for people listening, please message us, ask us questions. Remember, we live on Facebook, we live on Twitter. So
we're actually 9 hours ahead of PST. So
yeah, it's 10:30 a.m. in the morning for us. And so, Mark, you know, on the education side, so that's
we tried everything possible with David, like whatever we could to support him. You know, we consulted with the best OTs that we could, speech therapists. We actually got a little room at our synagogue, and we're Jewish, and we were looking for a place to do this. And so what we did is we got a special needs teacher. I'm sorry, I'm bad. I just had the flu. You'll have to carry on. Sorry, excuse me.
We got a little room at a synagogue, you know, where we employed a special needs teacher for David, and we had OT and speech therapy coming in. And all we wanted, really honestly, was to drop David off at a normal play school, just like every other parent. And we actually landed up convincing a small play school to take him and accept him as a student. It was a nightmare, as he really didn't have prerequisite skills for school to cope. And, you know, we felt he needed to go to school, but he wasn't coping. It was at this point where we then finally realized that it wasn't working out for him at school, and we started to homeschool him. But his progress was really, really slow, and we never stopped searching for something more. And we found this girl, Tracy. She'd worked at another school for autism. She had experience working with autistic kids. So we employed her, and we made a school, and it was called Little Stars. We bought a house, and we got a few more kids, and we thought Tracy was going to sort out all our problems. Tracy didn't have a lot of formal training dealing with autistic kids. You know, she had training from the school she worked at. She made up her own curriculum based on what she felt was right, and we made little progress, but not the best of progress. And I think just to take a moment there to say to parents that, you know, if something is not working, you've really got to dig deep and be honest with yourself that this is not working. And I did, you know, say that like whatever we're doing right now is not working and we need to look for something else. We kept on recalculating. And I think that's a very, very important point when you're on this autism journey, and if one intervention is not working, you know, try something else. Don't stick with it because you're in a comfortable space. You really do have to move on to the next thing. And we did, you know, and one night I went to Martin and I said, these conferences that we've been to in America are just so amazing and we should really bring it to South Africa. And at the time we were consulting with one of the best autism doctors in the world. His name was Dr. Jeff Bradstreet. He was absolutely a legend. He was the reason many, many children found their healing. He was the most incredible doctor. Sadly, he passed away many years ago. And Dr. Bradstreet Martin had actually met one of the Dan conference, and you know, he'd been David's doctor, and the biomedical, we were doing really, really well for David. But as you guys can hear, as our story goes, we weren't doing really well on the education side. And then one night I went to Martin and I said, remember, I'm going to make a conference. We're going to bring Dr. Bradstreet to South Africa, and I'm going to call it Challenging Children. And then, you know, remember what Dr. Bradstreet told us.
So, yeah, he actually wanted to convince us to bring Doreen Grampichet. We'd never heard of, I think maybe we'd heard of Doreen before.
Well, he said, I'll come to South Africa, but I want to bring Dr. Doreen Grampichet with me. And we were like, who's she?
I think one of the Dan conferences that I'd been to, I think she was one of the guest speakers there. And so probably had heard her name, but we weren't convinced. You know, it was expensive to bring Bradstreet to South Africa, and now to pay another plane ticket. But he said, no, you have to get this lady here. Please bring her with. And so we actually decided to do it, and it was obviously the best decision of our lives. You know, a few months later, before we knew it, Jeff and Doreen arrived, and we had the most wonderful conference in South Africa, and we were privileged to get to know Doreen. You know, this was a rare opportunity. They were in South Africa. There weren't all the distractions in America. So we really bonded with her. We went out for dinners and we got to know her really well, and she got to know our family well. And it actually occurred to me after chatting to her for so long, how much time we had been wasting with David's education. You know, we thought we wanted to put him in a play school to make him as normal as we possibly could. I think most parents make that mistake. You want a normal life. You want to hold on to what you think is normal or going to be the best for you and your family. Just put him in a normal school and then everything else will be okay. But, you know, he wasn't coping in a normal school and it wasn't good for him. He wasn't really learning from his natural environment. And so we really had to do something. And, you know, we established our own little school. It was called Little Stars at the time. It's now called the Star Academy, but it was called Little Stars. And we, you know, we employed a teacher called Tracy. Tracy was at another autism school. She didn't have a lot of official training. She wasn't like an OTS speech therapist or a BCBA. She just had practical training where she was working at another school and got on-the-job training. And then as things were going, we thought we were doing well. She made up her own curriculum. She used a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And I think that, so I may have missed part of what you were talking about at the beginning, but it didn't gel with us. We really didn't like what we were seeing, especially after hearing everything that Doreen was telling us. So halfway during Doreen's presentation at the conference, I decided I've had enough. I walked out of the conference, I called Tracy aside and I said, you know, we can't carry on like this anymore. We have to change. We have to do what Doreen is telling us. And about 2 weeks later, Tracy actually left. She decided this wasn't for her. And before we knew it, Doreen had flown somebody to South Africa. We were up and running, and it was fantastic. I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah. So, Doreen, I think before I move on to who Doreen sent to South Africa, do you want to tell them a little bit about Doreen?
Yeah. I don't think we could ever be grateful enough for what Doreen has done for us. We were really lost. We were Ilana cried every single day. She was so low. We were miserable. We were deep and dark, and Doreen gave us light and hope. And a lot of people promise us things, or generally in life, they promise to do things. But when Doreen made that promise to us, she followed through with the promise. Everything that she said she would do, she did. And we will forever be grateful. Here in South Africa, a million miles away, did we think that somebody could help us in the way that she did? And as a result, she's had the benefit and the merit of all the people that we've been able to help in South Africa and around the world. She gets part of that merit because she really empowered us. She gave us the best people, and she's an angel, an absolute angel. And we always phone her. There'll always be issues that come up over all these years. We'll be panicked, something happened, we'll phone Doreen, and she just has a way of cutting right down to the bottom line and finding a solution for everything. She calms us, she's always there, she's always got our back. And, never mind how great she is. I think everybody knows from a clinical point of view how amazing she is, and that she's this in the top of her field. But as a human being, she's just the most wonderful person. She's always been there for us. Doreen, if you're listening, thank you so much for everything that you've done for us.
Yes, Doreen is an absolute legend. She has been absolutely amazing to South Africa and to the Star Academy. If it wasn't for her input, we would never be able to have helped so many children for more than a decade. Anyway, so after Doreen came to the Challenging Children Conference, she said, I'm going to send one of my top clinicians to South Africa. And this is when maybe some of your listeners have met Sue Cho before, because I know that Shannon has interviewed her, and Sue came to South Africa. And
she's an ABA ninja.
Yeah, she's an ABA ninja. For Sue, if she's listening, she's definitely an ABA ninja. No one can do training like Sue in ABA. And the only way I can properly describe Sue's arrival and first day of ABA training in South Africa is really just to conjure a desert scene. I mean, before Sue, before Doreen, we were lost in the desert, dragging our feet on the hot sand. We were bent over from exhaustion and heat. We had no compass, no idea where we were going, as the strong rays of the sun blinded our sight. One sandy hilltop blended into another. Near death, we lay helpless on the sand, honestly suffering from heat stroke. The vultures were circling, waiting for us to drop to the ground. When Sue arrived, it was like this big black chopper that just appeared from the sky with an American flag like emblazoned on the side. Down a rope came Sue the Ninja Sue, okay, the American soldier. Sue would rescue us from the desert storm and provide the oasis we needed to end our wanderings. And this is precisely how I felt sitting through training on the first day, of Sue's arrival. Now, Martin, how do you tackle a diagnosis of autism? We've spoken about this before, and, we said we want to share this with the parents.
So I'm glad you used the word tackle, because you do need to plan and strategize your next move. There are financial considerations, there's practical considerations, and time pressure. There are different stages of tackling the diagnosis. There's the initial phase where you're dealing with shock and uncertainty and fear. I think that the best thing that you can do at this point is gather as much information as you possibly can. I think if you can empower yourself with as much information, you'll make yourself strong. One of the biggest challenges that I've experienced over the years is where parents think that the service provider be it the ABA team or the medical doctor or other therapists, are going to have all the answers and are going to sort out all your problems. It became very clear to me that we as parents must take charge and be incredibly involved in every aspect of the child's treatment program. You can be the best doctor, best education program in the world, but if you as a parent are not continuously involved, I think your chances of success are dramatically low. No one knows your child better than you. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. When I cast my mind back to the early days of David's autism, I remember feeling heartbroken and numb. I really went into a period of mourning. I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I couldn't wear new clothes. I wanted to punish myself. I only realized this many years later. And Mart, you say that a parent must do the research, but they're tired, they're not sleeping, they're physically drained, they're emotionally drained. How are they going to do this research?
If I remember my experience, the feelings and emotions that come to mind are overwhelming and debilitating. I kept on asking the question, why me? I'm sure everybody, or a lot of us, ask that question, why me? It's such a rare condition. Could this be happening to me? Why? If you're in a state of mind, in that state of mind, it's very difficult to do anything about your situation. I must confess that it did take me some time to fight off these feelings. And even though I started to become very proactive, there would be many, many times where these feelings would creep in and I would need to block these feelings out actively and consciously. You must put these scary feelings in a box. That's what I would recommend. If you put them in a box, lock them away and just move forward as fast as you can. The immediate question is, why should I have to put them in a box in the first place? Why can't I just love my child for who he is? Why can't I just enjoy all the things that other parents enjoy raising with their child? This was even more significant for me, as David was our first child, and I felt very deprived of all the normal things that parents get to do. We actually had a next-door neighbor whose child was born on the very same day as David, and it was very difficult to simply ignore the neighbor's child's development. I couldn't help noticing the small things other parents take for granted that we felt we were robbed of. My advice would be to find a medical treatment and therapy and focus all your energy on achieving success and results. By being active and throwing yourself into a formidable project like this, I think it will help you to forget about everything you feel deprived of and help you to win this battle. I'd like to give you an example that perhaps you can relate to. If you're sitting on a bicycle and you're stationary and someone gives you a little nudge or somebody tries to push you over, you'll fall over easily. But if you're riding your bike and you have a bit of momentum and someone gives you a little nudge, you'll hardly feel it because you're going, you've got speed, you've got direction. If anything, you'll have a little wobble, but you'll carry on riding in the same direction. And that's what I mean by acting. You need to move, you need to act. You must have set goals and you must plan to achieve that goal. There will be many ups and downs, but if you stay focused on the bigger picture, you'll get through these challenging times. I think I'm mainly talking to parents that have had a new diagnosis and are just starting on this journey, but even for other parents who have been a little bit on this journey, a little bit on the road, I really think that this is like really practical advice. I'm very practical as a human being, and that's why I'm going on this direction, because I feel that a lot of the time people don't get told what to do or don't know what to do. And for me, one of the most important things, another crucial point, is that hope is possibly one of the most important ingredients for success. You need to create situations to keep your hope alive. And I just want to repeat that because it sounds contrived. It sounds like, why should you? But I'm telling you, you need to create situations. You need to create situations where you keep hope alive. If one treatment doesn't work, then another treatment may work. If one dosage of a medication doesn't achieve results, try another dose, a higher dose of that same medication. Hope will foster a positive mental attitude, which is essential to achieving your goals. It will give you the confidence and energy you need to ride your bike faster and get back on when you fall off. When I look back on my journey, many of the hopes and dreams I had for David were maybe exaggerated, or dare I say, false hopes. But at the time, they were very real to me, and it kept my fire burning. And, you know, like as I'm saying these words, I'm thinking to myself, false hope, creating false hope. But I think that just surviving from day to day is the most important thing at certain parts of their journey. And then hopefully those days can become weeks and months. But, you know, very early on in my journey, I was made aware of the divorce rate of parents raising children with autism. And I took a conscious decision that I would not become one of those statistics. Inevitably, parents will deal with hardship differently. And in my case, Ilana was dealing with the day-to-day challenges. And my role was to try and earn as much money as I could to pay for everything that David needed. I decided that the best thing that I could do was to support Ilana as much as I possibly could, even when I disagreed with her. And some of the decisions relating to autism that she had taken at the time, you know, even when she was right, I still agree. Even when she was wrong, I still agreed with her. You know, I had to bury my pride sometimes and just agree with what she was saying. I thought we had to be united in this epic battle. You know, you're fighting autism every day, every hour, every minute. There's no room or space to fight each other. We chose to fight autism. When you're not sleeping, when your child won't eat, and when your whole world falls to pieces, it can be difficult to remain reasonable and sane. Ilana and I both like the phrase, choose your hard. Excuse me. Please carry on. Please tell them I can't.
It's hard to keep it together. You know, it's hard to be a parent to the other siblings. It's hard to be a good wife or husband. It's hard to go out in public, choose your hard. You know, I think we've got like only 10 minutes left. So what I want to do is I
can't believe it. You're joking. No way.
So what I want to do is we've got pictures and videos, and we
Can
know
I ask you
it.
something? Wait, please share a day in David's life.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Okay, so I want to share a day in David's life. So just to let everybody know, David was enrolled in ABA for his whole life. He's 20 years old, and I think he just graduated off ABA about a year ago. And I think this is the mistake that parents make. You know, they feel they're not getting the results that they want, and then they stop ABA. But ABA is first-line treatment. We know that it's regarded a medical necessity, and really, David would never have the level of functionality and independence that he has currently if he didn't receive all those years of ABA. So maybe we can just ask the producer to share a video of David having some behavior. I'd like to show this because this is what, you know, we went through in David's teenage years. David would have a lot of aggressive behavior. And maybe we can just quickly see that clip because I want to show you what David looked like. And then I'm going to tell you about a day in David's life today. Casey, can we get that clip? I'm filming you. I'm telling you. Thanks, Casey. So, you know, that's what David looked like in his teenage years. Casey, can we get the video of David in the kitchen baking the rolls? You know, now David works in a kitchen, and we're going to see what his day looks like there. Can we get that video clip just to show how he's making the bread and rolling the dough?
Nice. And then, well done, Dave. Okay, next one. You're actually getting better. Shame you care. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well done.
Okay, so thank you so much for showing that clip. And that was ABA, you know. We weren't going to achieve that level of independence and functionality for David if he didn't have all those years of ABA. So what does a day in David's life look like? We found him the most wonderful caregiver. While I'm speaking, Casey, can you put the pictures on of David? You can maybe flash through them. There's one of David at the sea, David standing next to a car. This is his caregiver. You know, when David turned 18, we couldn't buy him a car, but we bought his caregiver and David a car together because his caregiver drives him around. He'll pick him up in the morning. David can independently dress himself and feed himself. He will go with his caregiver to the shops. They will buy ingredients for the day. David then works in a kitchen with a chef and they plan the menu for the week. David can peel vegetables and chop vegetables, and they make soups and stews and pizzas. And, you know, we feed homeless people and we feed orphans from the food that David makes. And the smile on David's face when we eat his food or when he sees somebody eat his food is really just precious. And I think we've managed to make such a meaningful life with David. Casey, can we see some pictures of David and his caregiver? Okay, I think we're having some problems with those pictures, but while Casey's getting those pictures, you know, I am able to have, that's our family, by the way. That's a couple of years ago, and I'm going to, you know, just before we end, I will be sharing my younger son's journey with autism as well with you, and I did share our journey in my book, Saving My Sons, A Journey with Autism. If you would like any inspiration, here's the book, and I'm going to talk just now about how we recovered my younger son. If we can move to the next picture, I'm hoping to see David with his caregiver.
But David's life is he has a very happy life, very productive. He's up early in the morning. His day starts at about 8:30, where he goes with his caregiver, his hire. They go shopping. They do shopping for the ingredients for the day. And there's a plan. Ilana plans the menu with this chef every Sunday. They plan the menu for the week, and then they decide, okay, what day they're going to shop for what ingredient. And David's really great. So yeah, a normal recipe would be 10 steps. For David, it's 50 steps. And, you know, I think his whole life has got meaning now.
Absolutely. Okay. And there we have on the screen, actually, my younger son, Aaron, when he was 5 years old. And in the couple of minutes left, we're going to quickly share his recovery story. So David is our first son. He's now 20 years old. He's profoundly autistic, but because of all the biomedical intervention and the ABA he received for so many years, he has a very good level of functionality and independence, and I hope that that inspires you. My second son, Ellie, he shared his thoughts on autism, and he's studying medicine at UCT. And then years later, I was very brave. We had another child. And my youngest, Erin, at 17 months, I'll never forget phoning Doreen and, you know, telling her how concerned we were because we saw the red flags to autism unfold in front of us in a couple of days. With Erin, we were absolutely gutted in the beginning to see those symptoms of autism. We had to dig really, really deep to find the courage to fight for him, but we did. And Aaron had the best outcome. You know, we put him into 7 hours a day of ABA at the age of 17 months. It was a slog. We were in so much trouble. At the time that Aaron started his ABA program, you know, my oldest David was 10. And so we'd already watched the movie of autism. And when you watch a movie like that and you know what's going to happen, it can be very, very frightening because David was struggling to speak at that point. And now our youngest Aaron, he wasn't imitating, he was running in circles, he lost his eye contact, wasn't responding to his name. And we put him into 7 hours a day of ABA. We really had to pay attention to detail. Every target, we made sure.
I'd like you to jump in here. I've got to. Because I witness this from the outside, and it's so important that people understand. I wish the whole world was listening now. I know people are sleeping in the middle of the night there, but some people need to hear this. If you think you're going to put your child in an ABA program and then everything's going to be okay and somebody else is going to take care of your child and make them successful, that isn't going to happen. You as a parent, or we as a parent, we're very involved. And Ilana, I witnessed Ilana. Why I'm talking so fast, because I know we're running out of time. But Ilana threw herself into that program. She made sure she understood all the targets. She understood all the details of the program. And more importantly than that, she actually connected with the therapists and made sure that they were motivated. You know, as Ilana is an ABA provider here in South Africa, a large part of the program is, you need to be a good clinician. You need to understand, but you need to have a relationship with the parent and a relationship with the child. That's crucial. You can be as clever as you want to be, but if you don't know what motivates that child, and again, the connection with the parent has to be involved. So Ilana was involved. So when the team wasn't getting a target or they weren't making any progress, Ilana would jump in herself. She'd like roll up her sleeves, jump in there and do all the work. And I think I must admit, are a large part of the reason why we were successful. I mean, there are the ingredients. Ilana's very spiritual. There's a spiritual side. There's too much to talk about. There's a whole lot of things.
I'll just share the spiritual side.
Well, if you finish telling them about Erin and what he is today, just quickly tell them.
Okay, so where is Erin today? So Erin is recovered from autism. We reversed his autism. He is indistinguishable from his peers. He is in grade 5, he is in mainstream school, and we got our boy back, and he is an absolute miracle. And my advice to parents is that you can do the biomedical and you can do the ABA, but you must never forget the spiritual side. And I'll never forget when Erin was around 2 years old, my heart was broken. I was so sad. I was running 2 ABA programs, one for David, one for Erin. And I was very afraid of what the future would hold. And a friend of mine gave me a very special prayer, and she said, say this prayer and light a candle, and there's miracles around the number 40. So you're meant to say this prayer for 40 days and 40 nights and light a candle, because the act of lighting a candle just reminds us that there's miracles. And she said, turn off the lights, and when you see that flame, you know that light can overpower darkness. And this was so meaningful to me. And I said the prayer every single day. And she also said to me, the candle must continue burning. It shouldn't go out. It's not a good sign. Okay. Well, I don't know how many years has it been now? Like 9 years, going on 10 years. I say the prayer every day. I didn't just do it for 40 days. There's always a candle burning in my home. It reminds me that miracles are possible. And
my side from miracle is that I take Erin to school every day, and I don't think a day goes past that I don't appreciate the miracle of Erin and him talking. By the way, that's David in the book. That's him on the cover. But Erin is a miracle. Every word that comes out of his mouth, I don't take it for granted. I just love listening to him. I love hearing him talk, and it's like just honey dripping from his mouth.
Yeah, and I just want to add, like with both our boys, you know, David was really not destined to speak, but we pushed words out of him. And Erin, when we started, people will say he didn't have autism. People will say maybe he was more mildly affected. None of that. We were in serious trouble. You know, Erin had a very serious apraxia, speech motor planning impediment. And I just want to quickly tell parents in America that if you can access a prompt trained speech therapist, that stands for prompts for restructuring oral muscular phonetic targets, and you can get that prompt trained SLP to work with your ABA team, that's going to be really a good way to address that speech motor planning element. And that really worked for my youngest son, Erin. We would have ABA as our base, but we incorporated different tools. And, you know, as we've said, we really did have the best outcome. And so I think we have 1 minute left, and the time has come to thank Shannon Penrod for giving us this platform to share our story and for organizing the podcastathon. Shannon, you have been a guiding light. You have provided invaluable information on autism treatment to thousands of families around the globe for so many years. Your podcast, Autism Live, is rated as the #1 podcast. And really, it kept me going through the darkest periods of my life. You're my hero. Your book, Autism Parent to Parents, sanity-saving advice for every parent with a child on the spectrum, discusses all a parent of a child with autism needs to know. Your son, who at an early age was diagnosed with autism, is now successful as a college student studying screenwriting. Through your honest advice, you empower parents. Your book leaves everyone inspired and hopeful and armed with the information that they need to decide on treatment options. Thank you very much again.
Goodbye from Cape Town, South Africa. I can't believe how quickly that hour went. I mean, that was very, very...
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 2, educate yourself. Step number 3 is get support. Now, any journey can feel overwhelming if you feel like you're walking it alone. Well, you're far from alone, because with 1 in 50 kids diagnosed with autism today, there are a lot of us out there. Of course, there's always the issue of financial support. Now, there's a handful of organizations out there that offer financial support to families in need. ACT Today, or Autism Care and Treatment Today, is one of them. Visit our website at www.act-today.org to find out more about our grant process. I want to talk about a different kind of support today, emotional support. Now, you can get that from other travelers on this path. Some of the best advice I've ever received is from the moms of other kids with autism who went to school with Wyatt or were involved with programs with him. Then there are the pioneers. These are the families that have gone through this years ago, and there was very little information out there. All of these people seem to have the desire to pay it forward. Now, one of them, Lisa Ackerman, who is one of my mentors, started an organization called TACA, Talk About Curing Autism. She actually took the concept of mentors and support groups and made it available to everybody. You can go to their website, talkaboutcuringautism.org, to find out more. During the first and most difficult year after Wyatt's diagnosis, I wrote an email to close family and friends, letting them know what was going on and the challenges our family was facing, and why we dropped out of sight. I was amazed at the outpouring of love and affection and all the help I received from that email. First, you have to be vulnerable. You can't be afraid to ask. Try this out. Could you cook me a meal? Are you going to the market? Can you pick me up a few things? Could your kids play with my kid and make them feel included? Or can you come over and clean my house? Well, maybe not that last one, except with your best friend. And maybe the best support of all is having someone that listens, and that doesn't cost a dime. So until next time, surround yourself with the loving kindness of others and keep the faith.
Parent to parent, you might be asking yourself if your child has autism. And further, you might be asking yourself, is it important that I actually take my child to get a diagnosis? Well, as a parent of a child on the autism spectrum, I can tell you that diagnosis is important only in that it helps your child to get services. It helps to provide help. And all of our kids deserve help. We know that early intervention is key in creating the most progress for all of our kids, no matter if they're profoundly affected or if they're high functioning. So if the doubt is there in your mind, if you're asking yourself that question, I wonder if they might have autism, the only answer is to go and seek professional help. go get the diagnosis. They might tell you, no, your child doesn't have autism. But if they tell you that your child does, then you're going to want to get as much help as you can as early as you can. Don't make the mistake of waiting. Get the answer to that question. It'll make a difference.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am Swati from San Francisco, California. I'm the mother of Siri, our daughter, and this is my husband.
Hi, I'm Yuli.
We have 3 children, Siri, Vamsi, and Kiran. Our daughter is the oldest one. She was diagnosed as autistic when she was 3 years old. I host a radio show every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on telugu1radio.com. Telugu is a South Indian language, and it's internet-based, and the show goes wherever the internet is, because it's internet-based. Well, anyway, Siri was born, and it was difficult to understand her, and she would cry constantly. And my husband, he's an ER physician, which means he works long, odd hours, and each day is so different. And me being very shy and very quiet person, it was very difficult to manage with her, and I wouldn't know who to ask. Why I was so uncomfortable, and it was so difficult to bond with her. And so we took her to the pediatrician. Am I doing it correctly? So we took her to pediatrician because the preschool told us that she was being very quiet and she's playing by herself, or else she's taking a pillow and she's sleeping in the corner. So we took her to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician said she's only 2.5 years old, so come back when she's 3. So we took her back when she was 3 years old. Actually, her birthday is September 30th, and my husband's birthday is October 4th. And we always used to take the 4th off because we would go to San Francisco downtown, where my daughter used to enjoy going in the pier. So we had the pediatrician appointment, and after that we were planning to go out for the day. So we went to the pediatrician. They said that she's autistic, and I believe that she said just that word. And I thought, yeah, whatever. It didn't bother me because she said, yeah, that is how it is, or something like that. It did not give any effect on me. But then when I saw my husband, he's become very quiet and very withdrawn. And that really worried me because I didn't understand why he was so sad that they diagnosed her as that. And later on, I came to know what it actually is. Actually, I had to ask my husband how you spell autism, because that was the first time I heard the word. So she was 3 years old, exactly 3 years and 2 days when she got diagnosed. And I didn't know what to do, but I heard somebody say that ABA really works. So we had ABA company, which just started in San Francisco at that time. So we went and talked to them, and we got her evaluated. And we did 40 hours per week of ABA. And when we started doing that, she showed an immediate response. She was able to respond to her name, and we could understand a little bit more, and her hyperactivity came down. She was sleeping well. So we were very happy, and then we planned for our second kid. who is very typical and very outgoing, and he was pretty normal. So we thought that the second kid wanted to interact with our daughter, and she would always ignore him. Then we thought that we should have another kid because we already found out that ABA was actually helping my daughter, and then we had a third one, and that's how we ended up being parents of three children. So she went to through the school system from age whatever 3 years through 5 to 22. We tapered off ABA at age 11, and then when she started going to school in teenagers, it was very difficult. I would drop her off and then come back and wait at home because they would call me to come pick her up. She used to have behaviors, so I would go drop her off and then sit by the phone, um, just being scared because I know that they would call me. There is no school that I would think that, okay, I dropped her off, I can do something else on my own, because every day was very unpredictable. So that's how she went through her whole school system. And then at the end of around 18, 19 years old, we found a school close by. And they were actually teaching her better, and they were giving her choices and all that. So she started responding in a different way. And after the school system, she was at home because she is very minimal in communication skills, minimal and unreliable. So when she was 22, we didn't know what to do with her because there was nothing else. Day programs, the ones that we found, was not having a lot of activities going on. They would just make her make the individual sit down and give a coloring paper, very basic minimum thing. And before that, I want to mention that her behaviors were so difficult. They used to the school used to transport her in a taxi every day, and even that used to be very rough. So 22 was done, and she was at home. We didn't know what to do with her. And at the same time, my middle child, Vamsi, he went into army. So when he signed up for army, I was very sad because we never had him out of the house. And then my daughter was home and my son was not at home. So it was difficult for me. But then at the same time, I used to be very careful to make sure that my daughter doesn't notice that I'm sad. She is very, she can actually, she gets affected through our moods, especially mine. So I would behave like I'm very happy all the time. And on Facebook, I saw that soldiers, like I said, my son Vamsi went into army. They said that they were looking for care packages. I didn't know what care packages were. So when I asked, the parents said it's a simple toiletry things that you put in a box and send it to the army base. So they gave us a bunch of addresses with their names on it. So I knew what to buy and put in the box. So I told my daughter to pick a paper and a pen. And I told her to write what I was going to tell her, toothbrush and toothpaste and things like that. So she was writing each item and she looked at me like, oh, now I know what you want me to do. Until then, we had a kind of a disconnect. She would always be repelled by my presence. Any room I would walk into, she would just get up and go. Uh, she would be there only when there is meal, whenever I would serve her food, but that's it, nothing more than that. And at that time, she would always say, no, mommy, only daddy. So I thought maybe it's something to do with autism. And of course, moms, you know how we feel, right? If our kids don't like to have us around. But then the second I started telling her this is what we are going to buy, and then on the other side of the paper, I told her to write the store names that we were going to go to get these items. And she was very happy. The look in her eyes communicated a lot to me. Like she understood what I was trying to do with her. So we took the list, went to the store. She knew exactly where the items were, even though we never bought those things. She knew where those items were in the store. We brought them home, and then um, we went to post office, got the box, and made the boxes and sent them away. And the soldiers used to, and we included a thank you card in that. And Siri's handwriting is so good that um, I would tell her to write, and I made her write a Bible verse, Jeremiah 29:11. In the verse, it says that God has a great plan for each one of us, and the plan is not to harm us, but to bless us and give us a good life. So I would have her write the Bible verse on one side, and on the other side, I would write to the soldiers saying that my son is with them, training with them, and this box is put together by my daughter who has autism. So I would write to them, and then they would write back saying that, thank you for this box and things like that. So I would read those letters to her, hoping that she would understand what the soldiers were saying. And then once they graduated, the connection we had with them was gone. During that time, so once the connection was gone, we didn't have any more work to do. Every morning she would sit at the dining table waiting to see what I wanted her to do, next. Actually, we connected in such a way that when you have a favorite aunt, how we look forward to spending time with them, that's how she used to look forward for me. So then I thought she loves jewelry. Which girl doesn't love jewelry? She loves beads and bright colored beads. So I took her to the bead store. I got her a lot of beads, and we came home. And anything I tell her, she does very quickly. So I need to be two steps ahead to see what else I want her to do. And she started, I told her to break the strings. She broke the strings, and I didn't know what else to do. And I asked her to separate them by color, shapes, and sizes and all that. And then I had her count. I was just making her do things that just to keep her busy, but I didn't know what else I wanted her to do next. Then I thought maybe I should teach her how to make jewelry, which I did not know how to. So I went to the YouTube. I saw how to make simple earrings, got a pin and put the beads in and made a loop. Um, I got one plier and I got one for her, and her loop was perfect compared to me and mine. So she started making earrings, and at once she used to make a lot, and we started giving away to our friends and family, and then they would start giving her money, and we would say no, it's just hobby that she's doing. And then my husband said, why don't we just start a business on her name? And we started a business, and Fox News television, they picked up the story. And then after they picked up and they put her story on, then other television stations picked up the story, and then she was on cover of many magazines. As I was teaching her, her behavior was calming down in such a way that it was very easy. It was getting very easy to manage with her. So now that she's grown up, we bought a place for her to transition, because our plan is to see her thriving and happy, but away from us, so that we know that once we are gone, she would still have a happy and comfortable life. So the pandemic came. 2019, she was supposed to transition to the ranch, and the pandemic came, and we didn't. We were at home, and I started teaching her more stitching, and she started making masks. She made 150 masks, and we donated that to a church in Los Angeles. And so while the time was going on, I came to know that there is something called spelling to communicate. So we wanted to try that, and we thought that maybe it won't work because she has some speech. It's not like she's completely nonverbal, but still we tried. Dawn Mary from San Diego came here to San Francisco, and she did an evaluation. The evaluation was she was reading a story about Ben Franklin about electricity. So I was going to stop her to tell her that don't read her such elaborated and big stories. I wanted to tell Dawn Mary to read either about Sesame Street or Barney or something that she can actually relate to. But I didn't stop her because she was recording the session, the first session. And then she asked Siri, my daughter, a question. And then after she asked, she put a letter board in front of her and gave her a pencil. So with that pencil, Siri started punching the board. And I had goosebumps. My husband was there, and I was in tears because she was asking which year was that, so what happened, and who did he go out with, which place was that, and I was so surprised that she knew all the places, she understood the numbers, and she remembered which year the story was on. And that's when we recognized that she has a brain that can actually communicate. And then we need to put a board for her to communicate. And later on, she told us her desire to go to school. She wants to study to be a neuroscientist. And we started her off in college. It all feels like a dream because all along we were thinking who will take care of her once we are gone. And now she speaks volumes, of course, with the help of the board. And her interest is to speak. We are very happy where we are now. From the day she got diagnosed, she's much happier. She's very confident, and I do a lot of awareness about autism. I want other people to know that not to stop trying, keep trying with your kids, don't do anything drastic. We used to give her anxiety medicine when she was 22 after she was done with the college, with her school, special ed school. But later on we tapered it because she didn't needed those anymore. So right now she's not on medications or anything. And we made a movie of her life. It's My Name is Siri. So we will show the first clip we have. It's a trailer about her movie, 24 minutes. And it has our sons also. She does a lot of things. She does exercise. She does boxing. I'm always looking for the next opportunity. What else?
Everything that you hope for, all the dreams that you built, are destroyed.
I see too many young people today where autism or some other disability is becoming their total identity. There's sometimes a tendency to underestimate the ability of a person.
I would definitely characterize Siri as very ambitious and very determined, and with such a supportive family who are willing to move any obstacle in her way, I have no doubt that she's going to achieve all the goals that she has for communication and beyond.
What about one word to describe yourself? And find your letters. Oh, rebel.
Who is the strongest girl in this whole world?
Siri, yes.
Exactly.
Siri,
Siri is the strongest girl.
Introduce.
So that's the trailer of the movie. It was on different, many film festivals, and it's going to be on PBS San Francisco on May 1st and on Mother's Day. And I'll let my husband continue.
Thank you, Swati. Thank you for having me here on this podcast. And thanks to Shannon and Autism Live team. Thank you very much. We really appreciate what you do for the community, and this is a great pleasure and also a privilege to be able to come speak here as a guest. And thanks to Swati for all the efforts that she does, especially the Autism Awareness Radio Show. It has been running for several years on the internet, and we are happy to share Siri's story with all of the audience and with all the parents. And there are several reasons for that, is because Siri has a very unique and interesting story about how she grew up and how she developed and how she changed over time. You know, each child with autism is different, so that's one of the reasons why they call it the spectrum, right? Autism spectrum, and so your child may be, those are the parents that are on this podcast and who may be listening to this podcast. I want you to know that each child is different. So your child may be very different from what we describe our child to be, and your experiences may be very different from what our child's experiences were. But there are a few general things that we have learned as parents, and also, myself being a physician and a researcher, I try to understand the problem. I try to explore what are the options and what seems to be working, what doesn't seem to be working in Siri's life. So, in a way, Siri's life has become an experiment where we are trying to figure out things and learn from what she's doing and what she's capable of. So the first thing we realized from Siri's life is that ABAs seem to help. Obviously, at that time, this was 25 years ago, there was not much available as far as treatment is concerned. ABA was the first treatment that had some evidence behind it. And so we went ahead full steam with it, several hours, 20, 30, 40 hours a week. It is pretty taxing, and also it is very time consuming. Not only on the child, of course, who's going through it, but for the parents and the therapists that go through this also. So that was the first thing that we noticed. So as Siri grew up, we knew that, she's capable of doing things physically, because, we allowed her to learn everything, riding a bike, skateboarding, or riding a scooter, swimming, and all those physical activities she was very good at. She was also good at, fine motor activity, but we did not realize that this activity will help her someday to be able to communicate. So, so my next advice and recommendations for parents is that do not underestimate the physical activity side of things. So make sure that your child is engaged in some type of physical activity. The third thing is that being engaged in your child's life, whether it is the therapist, whether it is the activities, whether it is a hobby or something, where we were lucky enough to be able to have one parent available. That was Swati. Obviously it fell on her to be able to be available, to be engaged and get that interaction, social interaction, because it is very hard for them to interact with typical or peers. So those are the three pieces of advice that I wanted to give. Now, as so Swati was talking about how she became very anxious after her school ended at age 22. that was a very difficult period for us also, because there was no program that was ideal for her. There was no program where Siri is minimally verbal, but she's very capable physically. So we were looking for a program where they would push her capabilities, but most of the programs were serving the lower functioning kids. So it was hard for us to. She was right in the middle. So she was she was very good physically, but she did not have language. So that was a big challenge. So one of the things that we noticed was that when we realized that she was getting anxious, staying at home, and she was putting on weight, we got worried about it, and then we started her in an exercise program. And the exercise program was a pretty intense program. The group is called Puzzle Piece Athletics, that helped her, trained her 2-3 times a week, where she would go and she would go through this intense physical exercise program. And typically it is circuit training, weightlifting, boxing, and so aerobic exercise. And so pretty intense, I would say. She would start sweating in a few minutes. And we would worry about, at least I would worry about, is she able to do that? Because are we pushing her too hard? But the coach was very encouraging of her, and he said that Siri is capable of a lot more than what she's actually showing. And so when I saw that that she's capable of doing this exercise and being able to benefit from it, so we saw a big difference in her within a month or two, where she started losing weight, and also her anxiety started coming down with exercise. And then that had a very beneficial effect on her being able to participate, we being able to take her out, and a lot of those abnormal behaviors were decreasing. And then she lost about 30 pounds. And then we realized that, wow, the exercise part is so important. And as far as, and then as we were observing this, I was, in the healthcare technology field. I'm an emergency physician. I design technology tools for doctors and patients. And so I was looking for an opportunity where I could help create something for people with autism where they can be engaged, not only mentally, but also be physically active. And that's how, we came up with the solution. I wanted Casey to play the second video. So we started a company. Let me give Casey instruction. Casey, play number 2 video now. So we came up with this device that you'll see in just a bit, the video of it. Okay, there it is. I'll describe after the video plays. So that is Siri on the machine.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Slow down, that's all.
So this machine, as you can see, it looks like an exercise machine, like a recumbent bicycle. But what you're seeing is Siri on the machine but she's also interacting with a video game. And as you can see, the machine moves. You can stop playing the video now. Thank you. So the machine is a robotic machine, which means that the machine is able to move based on what is happening in the video game. So there are three components of the video, as you may have noticed. One is the machine itself, which is the robotic machine, where it looks like an exercise machine, where she's pedaling with her legs and steering with her arms. The second piece in that system is the VR glasses, virtual reality goggles that she's wearing. And so she's able to see the game through her VR. So it is a very deeply immersive environment where she can see the forest, where she can see the path, and whatever is happening in the video game, she's able to see it. So the third component is the video game itself, where there is a mental challenge where you have to follow this path and you have to drive the machine, right?
To hit a rock.
Yeah. Thank you. You can stop the video now. What this system does is, number one, whatever she does on the machine, which is the exercise part, where she's driving the vehicle, whenever she pedals, the vehicle inside the video game also moves. So she has full control of the vehicle inside the video game. And whatever happens in the video game, she's able to feel it. For example, she's able to feel the road. When she hit a rock, she was able to feel the jolt in the machine, and she can feel the wind, going fast. And when she's going uphill or downhill, she's able to feel everything that is happening in the video game. And then whatever she's doing on the machine, she's able to see it inside the video game. So our hypothesis is that when you put people in a situation like this, what we call a deeply immersive situation, and you provide them with a physical challenge and a mental challenge, that you're stimulating the brain to create new pathways, also called neuroplasticity. We think that neuroplasticity will help. Again, this is our hypothesis, and we want to test it. And currently, we are planning to do some clinical trials where people, real patients, will be able to try the machine out and then give us feedback. And this is happening in the first week of May in Salt Lake City, Utah. So if you are in Salt Lake City, Utah, please contact us to be able to try this machine. And so so the idea is, when you put people in this environment, you are, number one, helping them engage physically and mentally, which we think might help with their symptoms. Number one, it may help decrease the aggressive behaviors. Number two, it may help with the anxiety. Number three, it may help with sleep, improve sleep patterns. And number four, help improve focus. So we'll be testing in the coming months and years to see how this machine can have a positive impact on the symptoms of autism. And that's our hypothesis. Again, it may or may not work, but we have a very strong feeling that it will work. So the startup is called Serica Therapeutics, SIRICA Therapeutics, and the website is sericatherapeutics.com. And please follow us. Swati is on. What is your show address?
We have a YouTube channel for Siri. So if you are curious about how does she do these activities like boxing and she does horse riding, she can skate, she can swim, she can do a lot of things that we actually started encouraging when she was very young. and we started training her to do a lot of things even when she was like 6 7 years old, teaching her how to help in the kitchen, how to do the laundry, how to do grocery shopping. Now we have her make lists and stuff like that. We should always involve our children in everything we do, even though we think that they don't understand. They hear everything. Now she tells us, our daughter, through the help of the board, that she knows and remembers everything from her childhood. And she says how she was treated at school, that nobody taught her anything that she could learn. And now we see her like a sponge, because anytime we take her to the sessions, she wants to absorb a lot more than she can. She does this spelling to communicate at least 3 hours or more at a stretch. And even after 3 hours, she doesn't get up until we tell her that she's done. The way to know more about Siri is on YouTube. She is Designs by Siri / My Name is Siri. So if you are interested, please follow her. Again, the YouTube channel is Designs by Siri / My Name is Siri. She has her own online store. Again, it's designsbysiri.com. I do autism awareness show. It's in Telugu. It's on telugu1radio.com, where I talk about basic things, what autism is all about. And a lot of people from India, they listen to the program because there isn't too much awareness about it in India. And that's what I do. And then I take care of my daughters.
Yeah, feel free to post questions in the message box. We'll be happy to answer if you have any questions. So one of the key things we learned, with Siri, is that she was capable doing and thinking like a regular person, like a normal person. And so one of the mistakes that we may have done, and I see other parents also doing, is that they underestimate the ability of the person. So do not underestimate, because these kids are able to think and do, even though they don't appear that they are listening to you. Even though they're not paying attention, we know that they're absorbing everything from the environment. So make sure that you assume competence, right? You want to make sure that they know that they are capable, and be able to push, physically, and also in mental activities and physical activities, like a regular person. That will come very useful later in life.
Actually, we came to know, I thought that I know everything about my daughter. I know exactly what she thinks and what she wants, what she doesn't like. Like, I thought that I know actually 99% of what she is, but I was wrong. Recently, I came to know that there is a condition called apraxia, and apraxia is I let him.
So apraxia is where you're thinking of doing something, but the body will not listen to your brain. The brain is trying to send a message, whether it is an activity, whether it is speech, whether it is any fine motor activity that that the person is not able to communicate with the body.
Yeah, in a simple words, the way I understood is the disconnect in the body is, if you ask the child to do something, give me the phone, they know that we are asking them to give the phone, and they are capable of stretching their hand, pick up the phone, hold it and put it back, put it on our hand, but their body will not respond to them. For us, when we hear any command, our hand automatically goes to the phone and picks it up and gives it to the people that wants the phone. But with autism, even though they know how to do it, they want to do it, and they do understand it, their body doesn't always cooperate with them. The other day, I was reading something on social media where the boy was explaining how difficult it is for him to do day-to-day activities. He was saying that his body is his enemy. His body does not listen to him, and he does hurt his mom. even though he doesn't want to. And those are the things that really make me feel that there is so much that we don't know about autism. But then once we know what it is, at least we will learn to work around it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the current numbers in the USA, there's autism is 1 in 36 children have autism, which is a scary number. That and it keeps growing every year. Um, so autism is a very tough condition because we don't know a lot about it. You know, we don't know what causes it. Although we know that there is genetic influences and there's environmental influence, but we cannot pinpoint exactly what. And there's no biomarker, there's no test where you can get a blood test and get a diagnosis. All right, it is very complicated because it is a spectrum. Not only it is a challenge for the parents, but also for the physicians and the psychologists. The other bigger challenge is that it is growing very fast. The numbers are increasing, and nobody knows why. Every year it is growing by about 10%. The third challenge is that there's no one specific treatment or drug where you can give and expect that it'll get better. So the whole field is open. Of course, ABA works, and there are several other methods that where you're engaged with the kid and are teaching. Those things work, but there's no one prescribed method that will always work, right? Each child is different. So the best thing is to keep engaged and let the child lead you, but also teach them as if you would teach a regular person, a regular child, because they are capable of understanding, even though they're not capable of speaking, even though they're not appearing that they're understanding, they are understanding. They are able to get everything that they are seeing and learning. So don't shortchange. If you're a young parent and thinking, okay, what should I do with my child? Be as open and as interactive as possible, and then teach them, things like you would teach a regular child, and never give up, because there is hope. Things do get better as they get older, and as you see a lot of these interactions turn into positive outcomes for them in the future.
And as young parents, when we want our kids to be healthy, we'll do whatever it takes for them to be healthy and thrive. But the diagnosis really hits us in such a way that we think that the whole world has come to an end. But allow yourselves to go through that circle of disappointment. We go through anger, we go through disappointment. I don't know what the other stages are, but give yourself that permission to go through all that. We become bitter, we become sad, we become all that. But once we are gone through that, don't resist any of those things. Just let yourself go through the whole cycle. Once you're done with that, then you should know that you are the only one that can help your child. Nobody else can do it. Of course, we can find different therapies, but that is only until they do the therapy. It's not 24/7. And understanding your child and knowing that they are there, even though you feel that they don't understand anything, they don't have empathy, they don't love parents and all those things. That is how we kind of thought, because when there is no communication, how would you know that she is like us? Now that we know that she is a lot like us, we talk to her as if she does understand. And whenever we take her to the sessions, that's where she responds. But that training we can, even parents can learn. Since we just started, it's not, we haven't become fluent yet, myself and my daughter. But she told me that she wants to study neuroscience, which I feel very privileged that she told me. But there is a lot that we can do to help the children. Once we know what it is and why they behave the way they behave and things like that. And one thing is that there is no quick fix. People say that you do this, you do that, we will cure autism in 1 year. I see a lot of people and lot of organizations claim that. It's a long process. It's a laborious thing. The child has to work, and also the parents. One thing I always tell on my radio show is you and your spouse have to be one team. It has a very huge impact on your marriage. Knowing that we should work as a team. Of course, sometimes you agree and you disagree and all those things. But one thing we should always keep in our mind is our focus is our child. And we need to provide them very loving and a stable environment, which means arguing, fighting, and those things we should be very, very, very minimal, because they cannot come and ask us. We should always put ourselves in our child's place. That's when we know how we want our environment to be. We make sure the television is not very loud. We don't watch the things that might affect her in any negative way. And anywhere we go, we take her. We never leave her at home. And sometimes, being an autistic family, people behave in a different way. Sometimes they mean it, and sometimes they don't. Many times they tell us to come without our daughter, even though she's not very disruptive. She does talk loudly, but we are very mindful of that. But what we do is we teach our children, the other typical kids, that people are not supposed to pick and choose who they want to come to their events. So if we go as a package. All 5 of us will go, or else sometimes we do leave all 3 kids at home. But that is how we do the awareness also. People seen our daughter, and she's everywhere we go. We take her to movies. We go to India. Now that pandemic has come, we don't travel often, but anywhere we go, she comes with us. And one day we asked her, "How do you like about traveling?" And she said, on the board, she said it's excruciating. And I was so surprised because her language is so what do you say? Very high.
Well developed.
Very well developed, and I always have my dictionary open to see what those words mean. And right now we are really enjoying her company. She's much calmer. She wants to be with us. She wants to watch TV with us. And she told us that she's more American than Indian. And she's very appreciative of us. And we didn't know all those things. We didn't know that it really matters to her if we were there or not. Even if we transition her, I would always ask my husband, would she ever miss us? Because we will be transitioning her. And now she says that she doesn't want to move because she's not sure how her caregivers will be able to take care. No, all the typical worries that anybody else would have. She's a child that we never thought that we had before, and we just figured out like almost a year or a little more than that. And if you want to follow her, she's everywhere. Designs by Siri / my name is Siri. If you want to know more about her, there's a YouTube channel. She has her own online store. You can actually see how what kind of stuff she makes. And on YouTube, I always put her activities, including her jewelry making. She does a lot of things. We can teach her anything, and she's very patient, and she loves to create different things.
So one of the things that we did this last year was that actually make a movie, a documentary about her life, because one of the things we see is that a lot of parents are concerned about their child, other people knowing about it, whether it is parents or whether it is friends. They try to hide them. But then the more we expose them to the real world and the real world sees them, that is part of autism awareness, right? People try to understand. There is a stigma attached to it. It'll take some time for us to get over it. But I think that is very important for other people to see your child, and also for your child to see the world, outside of the home. And school, of course. But as you develop that, you you get more bolder, and also your child feels more normal. And Siri has this inspiring story. So we created a documentary, and it's called My Name is Siri. You can go to mynameissiri.com and also look at the trailer and what it is all about, and the team that made it. It's an awesome team, and we actually had a premiere this year in San Francisco Bay Area.
Another thing we need to remember is, as families with autistic children, we need to take them into the community. What we do is, we don't want people looking at our children, because we do notice that they are looking at us, and we do see that whenever we go out. But when I see that, I smile at those people. I tell them that I introduce my daughter, and I say that she's autistic. She cannot speak, but she understands everything, and she makes jewelry. She can skate. I mean, now I talk about the board communication, but what we need to do is, we need to let people know why they are behaving the way they are behaving, because she has autism. That is how they would know. If not, yes, people will look, because of course they do behave differently. Or when we ask her a question, her voice is so loud that suddenly people, excuse me, get they kind of suddenly look at her to see what's going on. But we need to educate people. The more we talk about it, the more we take our children out, it will become more normal. Most parents, we feel uncomfortable. Actually, I need to give credit to my husband, because he takes her everywhere he goes. But yeah, I think mainly your kids need to know that you're proud of them no matter what. And that's what actually gives them that confidence. Tell them that's fine. You have that condition called autism, and the way you behave, it's not because of you, because of the condition you have. And same thing with the other siblings also. We need to tell them that we do all these things with the special needs child because she needs it. Our middle child, Vamsi, he would say when he was very young, Mom, I wish I had some autism. And I would ask him, why do you need autism? He would say that I love my daughter a lot more than others, because I spend a lot of time with her. So he would say that if he also has it, he used to say that I would spend time with him. So I would tell him that if he wants something, he comes to me, but my daughter doesn't. So I need to pay more attention. And now that they are all grown up, they are very appreciative, because we were very transparent from the beginning, telling them about their sister and what they should do and what they should not be doing to help her. We always tell her to treat her, to love her like a youngest sister, but then respect her as an eldest sister. So we have to keep talking about her to the siblings, and we need to talk about our children to the family and our friends. Instead of keeping them away from the community, we should take them in as much as possible.
So one of the things that by the way, if you have any questions, please enter in the chat in the last few minutes that we have. I would be happy to answer any questions. So if you're interested in knowing more about the machine that we showed you, go to siricatherapeutics.com, SIRICA, siricatherapeutics.com, where we are trying to gather people and also run some studies to make sure that we are designing it the way it would work and also be useful for many. And of course, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Yuli K. Chetipalli, and I'm on LinkedIn. And Swati is on Facebook.
Yeah, everything is designed by Siri. If you are wondering what the board communication is, there are two methods of it. One is spelling to communicate, and there's another one, rapid prompting method. If you look up online, you will find Soma is the lady who actually came up with this method of communication. And even if they are very young, take them to different practitioners. It's all on internet. You can look up iasc.org, I think, I-. What you need to do is always have a positive attitude. Don't compare your kid with typical kids. The way I keep myself encouraged is I compare her with herself from last year. I never have any, I don't compare her with anybody else. Looks like our time is over.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity. Thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Autism Live team, for giving us this opportunity to be able to, participate in this podcastathon. And good luck to everybody that is doing this, and all the audience that are going through some, these challenges that that are, I would say difficult, but they are.
Not impossible.
Not impossible to get over.
Yeah.
So best wishes to everyone, and
thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, we will stand by here until
the next talk.
the next podcaster will come on. And also we thank all the podcasters, because what they're doing is a very great service to the community, which is very much needed. The more we talk about it, the more we talk about potential solutions, and the more we talk about our own kids and how they are doing, it's always encouraging for younger parents and younger families. So,
Hello, fellow activists. In our last segment, we talked about step number 4, run your own race, don't compare. Your child has their individual journey. Moving on to step number 5, shore up spiritually. Now, spirituality is a very loaded word. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I'm not talking about religion in the traditional sense. I'm talking about a practice, a belief system, or a ritual that speaks to your soul. Now, that doesn't have to be found in a church or a synagogue, although it may well for you. It could be found out in nature. Your altar could be a redwood tree. Your hymns could be birds singing overhead. It's different things to different people. In the early days of Wyatt's autism, I don't know how I could have survived without my church. In addition to dealing with his diagnosis, I was dealing with my husband's battle with cancer, the aging of my parents who lived across the country, and their eventual passing. I knew I could find peace, at least for an hour and a half, sitting in the pew of my church. See, anything can become a spiritual practice if you approach it that way. And for me, it wasn't found in a sermon or in a religious doctrine, but in my fellow man. We'll talk more about that next. In the meantime, find out what speaks to your soul and keep the faith.
Parent to parent, we're always looking to build our child's language skills, aren't we? Here are a few quick tips, ways that we can help to do that. The first thing is to be brief and specific with our language. The next thing is to repeat, repeat, repeat. Just like in Dr. Seuss, use the same words and do them over and over and over again. The next thing to do is to make sure that whenever your child wants something, you make them request for it. And the last most important thing is to reward approximations. They're not going to get it right the first time. They might even not get it right the third time. But whenever our child is trying, we want to make sure that we reward those approximations so that they want to do more of speaking and communicating. If we use these easy tips, we can help to build our children's language.
Hello, fellow activists. Last week, I introduced you to step 5 of the 10 steps to empowerment, shore up spiritually. Let's talk more about finding ways to do that, how to find out what lifts your spirit, feeds your soul, and make it a practice. That practice is different things for different people. It could be the practice of meditation, of prayer, of community worship, or serving others. But it's the practice that will give you hope and faith and strength for the journey ahead, for the marathon journey of raising a child with autism. I get inspired every day by the families of children with autism that I come into contact with, like the parents of the nonverbal child who have not given up hope that that child will speak one day, or the grandparents who should be enjoying their retirement but instead are joyfully raising their adult grandchild with autism, or the mother who is fighting for services for her daughter while her Marine husband is fighting a battle to keep our country safe. They all inspire me. My grandmother, Diddy, who is an angel who still guides me every day, had this quote inscribed in her Bible: "I sought my soul, but my soul I could not see. I sought my God, but my God eluded me. I sought my brother, and I found all three." I think I'm finally starting to grasp the meaning of that. So feed your soul, lift your spirit, and until next time, keep the faith.
Early 90s, and therefore were one of the first publications of the replications of Lovas's study from 1987. And then also you had Sveinike's program in Norway, which also had secured funding in the 1990s. And Mila Dickens' program out in Modesto, California had secured funding. And then actually 2 programs in Modesto, because of the advocacy of parents there, had secured funding. Jane Howard's program also there. So those were the first early publications of high quality intensive early intervention as a result of the NIMH study that was funding research into whether anybody could replicate what Lovas had published in 1987.
Right. Yeah, I love that we're having this conversation because there's some weaving to do about the history of ABA and the definition of outcomes for ABA and what Lovas set off to do. And then as we have become more informed with our data and information, the concept of what an optimal outcome for an individual with autism might be. And, you know, Lovas's study sort of highlighted this false dichotomy of the differences between an optimal outcome being 53% of those individuals being indistinguishable from their peers, right? After X number of hours per week for an average of 3 to 5 years in early intervention. You know, that was one way of looking at what ABA as a treatment could do for individuals who were diagnosed with autism. But that was 50 years ago, 60 years ago at this point, right? And so now we're thinking about outcomes differently and understanding neurodiversity differently, and are changing the way that we are thinking about ABA as a treatment differently. And so, you know, the reason I wanted to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and talk about sleep issues is because every single parent that I have ever interviewed when they come into a clinic, into one of my clinics, beyond can you get him to communicate better, and I say him because statistically it was more boys than girls, beyond can you get him to communicate better, the next 3 questions they always asked were, can you get him to eat more foods, more than 5 foods, whatever it was? Can you toilet train him? And can you get him to sleep better, right? And so those 3 issues, eat, sleep, and potty, I called them, ESP issues, turned out to be the biggest 3 quality of life issues for most individuals, most families coming to me for early intervention and even into school age and beyond, of what optimal outcomes might look like for individuals who might be impacted by autism. What's been your experience with those 3 issues, eat, sleep, and potty?
Yeah, I love that that's what you're focused in on, because I always think about that as the self-care realm being the realm that when you're talking to new graduate students in ABA, that doesn't seem sexy. That's what, what we want to do is the psychodynamic person-to-person treatment and have the big breakthrough like in the movie Ordinary People, and do all the things that really feel like real psychology or behavior analysis. But the nuts and bolts for most families is self-care, and that's what they're faced with. That's what they're doing all day long with their children, without relief. And a lot of what we do when we're providing a comprehensive program is giving the parents a bit of a break from those constant demands.
Amen. I mean, yeah, it's so basic to all of us, right? What you eat, how you sleep, and your ability to process the foods and whatnot that you eat. So eat, sleep, and potty is just basic to all of our own self-care. It's sort of a monument to how we're going to be able to establish the groundwork to move forward in the world, period. But, I mean, I should preface all this talk about sleep by first saying that one of the tenets of our science and our treatments and our care in the autism space is to only select goals that are pertinent to the families or to the individuals themselves. So if sleep is not an issue for you or for your family, then this podcast or this talk about changing these things is not directed towards you. But for the multitude of families who are impacted by sleep disruption, I want to talk about all the different ways that sleep can be interwoven with autism symptoms and the symptom burden, if you will, of that diagnosis for individuals and families. So first of all, there are issues between sleep disorders and sleep behavior. So tell me a little bit about your understanding of those things, Eric.
Well, you were just addressing it so well. It's some people are sleeping according to whatever schedule they prefer. They're very pleased with their lives, and they don't need help from a professional. But more than half of the kids that we work with, that is a major complaint of the parents. And we're talking about early intervention. So the best way to keep ABA positive is to do early intervention rather than to wait until adolescence. And now, what are you going to do to help a child that's got an entrenched disordered pattern of sleep? And I might go off a little bit on that. So often we're seeing children in adolescence and young adults who have incredibly dysfunctional sleep patterns. And this has nothing actually to do with autism. We encounter children who are up all night playing video games. And those patterns develop slowly over a period of 10 years to the point where parents take for granted, I'm going to be zonked out and my kid's going to be up all night. And while they're going to school, the problem is kind of masked because school copes with kids that can't pay attention, that are groggy, that are ornery because they've been up all night and now somebody's had to drag them out of bed and get them on the bus. And they're in school and maybe they're even dozing, but school can accommodate any challenge you might have. But now what's going to happen when that child goes off? And again, I'm not even talking about autism yet. That child now goes off to college or goes off to independent work, social life, and they're still used to being up all night and sleeping during the day. What are they able to get a job and keep that job? Are they able to get to classes and learn from their college experience? Or are they really just so used to being up all night that their pattern of life is very different from the majority of their peers? And about autism, there's this obvious, more persistent, perseverative pattern of behavior that's really hard to break. Whereas for you and I, it was ridiculously easy to learn to just get to bed on time, which I'm saying with a big smile.
Yeah, that has not been the case in my entire life. Yeah, but that's an interesting point. Like, we haven't even gotten to autism yet, because at some point, I think over 20 years ago, at a workshop I went to in ABAI in Atlanta, I went to a workshop about sleep and autism, and the gentleman whose name is escaping me right now, fact that there is a diagnostic crossover between individuals who are diagnosed with ADHD and those who are just sleep deprived in children, because they're behaving hyperactively in order to keep their brain and their nervous system regulated based on the lack of sleep. And I've seen that in my observations of children in general. The kids that have not had their naps on time, right? Typically developing neurotypical children, toddlers, etc. They haven't had their naps on time, and you see them getting more and more wound up, right? And just impulsive and grabbing all the things in their environment because they're not on their correct sleeping schedule, right? So if we extrapolate that to individuals whose neurology might be different even further, what is that going to do to their behavior, right? So yeah, I think statistically it's somewhere between, and this is a wide berth, but somewhere between 44 and 89% of individuals on the autism spectrum have some type of sleep disturbance. And so there is, again, the difference between a sleep disorder and a sleep behavioral issue is can't sleep versus won't sleep, right? So you've got disorders that go into parasomnias, sleepwalking, night terrors. What else? What else am I missing here, Eric? There's other types of sleep disorders that I can't think of that are a legitimate medical diagnosis versus a behavioral issue. And so it's important that we parse out, as we talk about these sleep issues, that you get a medical rule out first before anything is actually addressed behaviorally, so that you're actually treating the correct symptom or issue that's going on in the household.
Right. Yeah, but a hallmark of ABA treatment is to look at whether there's something biological that should be addressed first. I think, unfortunately, though, the huge, vast majority of folks are going to encounter medically is medication treatment, which is not actually recommended by the medical professional associations. In fact, it's counter-recommended because drug treatment is only a temporary stopgap for treatment before children habituate to the therapeutic doses.
Yeah, and what are some of the medications that you see prescribed, or even sometimes not even prescribed, just used?
Well, your normal pediatrician, and frequently people are going to talk about, I'm even blanking out the term, it's more of an herb than it is a drug.
Melatonin?
Yeah, melatonin, thank you.
Yeah, yep.
And then people will recommend just basic, pediatricians might recommend that you just try a basic antihistamine that has a depressant effect on all of us. And then you've got your real sedatives, which, again, parents who are desperate, and when you were trying to think of different psychiatric labels for sleep disorders. You know, some parents are desperate for relief just because they're having real behavioral issues with a child's sleep. So twice in the past 10 years, a major complaint brought to us from a family was, my child's fixated on stuffing the toilet and flushing the toilet, and we've literally had to replace our ceiling because our upstairs bathroom flooded and we were asleep. And wake up in the morning and you need a new ceiling. So the problems children get into, we all know about how challenging it is to come up with a lock for your house that your 4-year-old child can't figure out how to defeat. And then they're out bolting, and the neighbors are finding your child sleeping on their doorstep in the morning. These are regular complaints that parents bring to us, and the safety of a young child that doesn't have self-preservation skills is a major issue in autism.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, so many parents I've worked with throughout the years, they have children that are either difficult to get to sleep or to stay asleep. So there's sleep onset and then there's sleep maintenance. Two different types of disturbances within just regular sleep behavioral issues, not even talking about disorders. And, you know, a lot of families end up co-sleeping, which there's absolutely nothing wrong with, unless it is no longer preferable to the family, right? So I've worked with families that have teenage children that are still co-sleeping in the parent's bed